Asylum Inc. presents Hollow. Fallen Michaels took to the stage, greeted by massive cheers and applause. Jacob wore the giddiness on his face as Michaels spoke about his esteemed guest. Detective Jennifer Cale, however, tried to engage her mind in something more useful while feigning interest for Jacob. Daydreaming wasn't going to cut it, nor was replaying recent crime scenes in her head. Jennifer couldn't help asking herself, why psychics? Couldn't Jacob like anything other than psychics? Eventually, Ms. White was paraded out onto the stage, greeted with the applause of countless adoring fans. Her glowing persona radiating outwards as she began her routine, a process which began with the most common predictions. An elderly man wished well to a loved one. A grandmother says the riches are hidden on the property. What the people wanted to hear, at least that's what it appeared to Jennifer. However, as much as the process seemed nothing more than a well-rehearsed shtick, the fact remained it was also the truth. It was easy. Melinda could sense it just by looking in their eyes. That was the real gift, an instinctual glimpse of a person's life and desire, where she read not just from the other side, but from the person's own thoughts and emotions as well. Communing with the dead on deeper levels, however, brought on severe pain, forcing Melinda to always hold back, save for the most extreme or necessary of circumstances. Other dangers lurked when performing even these more basic readings. Delving too deep, even on accident, always attracted multitudes of the deceased, drawn to her life's warmth. The dead rarely came to her these days, but when they did, they had no joyful news to say. Those that would speak of hopes and dreams and joyous things spent very little time within Melinda's sphere. She often thought that they must be transcending to some other form, content to leave the matters of the living to the living. Those that remained, however, they wanted only revenge for a life cut down, deserved or otherwise. Their rage, grief, or pain refused to loosen its grip, instead consuming them utterly. As Melinda wrapped up her introductory readings and began to segue into the meat of her show, Jennifer couldn't help but be impressed. It was the subtle things that caught her attention. Bits and pieces of information Melinda relayed were too unique to guess and far too specific. In fact, she never led her audience into revealing information like most psychics do, with the goal of repackaging what the audience revealed by accident as new insights to amaze. As Melinda's gaze drifted over the audience, gleaning the secret truths of their inner mind, her eyes met those of Jacob, and an odd thing occurred. Melinda White felt charged, powerful even. An electric wave washed over her body, starting in her extremities and coalescing within her mind. Melinda's grip tightened on the chair, tearing into the fabric. The audience's fear became palpable as the acclaimed psychic contorted in agony yet made no sound. Fallen Michaels stood up and began to reach out to the woman when an enormous blast of light threw him backwards, crashing into one of the many cameras standing by. Jennifer began to stand, ready to take control of the situation when the very same wave of energy thrust into the audience, blissfully rendering everyone unconscious. Unfortunately, for those in the front couple rows, unconsciousness came only after the pain. As the light blinded the audience members in the front rows, the first sensations they experienced were not of bliss, but of the frightfully slow peeling of their cracked flesh, starting at their fingertips and moving ever forward toward their head. While in truth, the flash happened all within a moment, the event horizon of the field behaved like that of a black hole. The primary effect was one of slowing the audience's death to what seems like unimaginable hours of excruciating pain as their very flesh peeled away from their bodies, sending signal after signal to their brains, ensuring that every moment of suffering was felt in its entirety. The suffering fed the field, channeling it, strengthening it. Melinda couldn't think, only experience the terror, suffering, and excruciating pain inflicted on those in her immediate vicinity. As her blood pressure increased, her veins swelled until they began to rupture, spewing crimson gore all over the floor. Her heart burst deep within as the incredible energy tumbled out of her, fed from the innocent child just outside the reach of her destructive field. Jacob convulsed in his unconscious state, thrashing back and forth, surrounded by his fellow unconscious audience members and mother. As Melinda's surge of power reached its crescendo, the explosive energy ruptured her eyes before exploding her head, releasing the totality of all the suffering, pain, and monstrous energy. Finally, and with explosive effect, the door to the other side was open. To be continued. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this Asylum Inc. presentation.